Welcome back to the Cerner Hospitalist Training video series. In this video, I'd like to talk a little bit more about DynDoc and the Histories tab. You are already aware that we can build the note by putting documentation in this right-hand pane and then creating the note here. And in fact, I'll click on that admission H&P, which then presents us with this format where the information on the left-hand side is filled in from our workflow. The information on the right-hand side, like the problem list, past medical history, procedure list, medications, allergies, social history, and family history, are fed from the Histories tab and the Problem List tab. The issue is using the Histories tab in the workflow. Once that information is entered into the Histories tab, it will automatically pre-populate the right-hand side every time the patient is admitted. So it might take a little more effort on the front end to do this, but if the patient is someone you might expect to return frequently, then ultimately the time spent pays for itself. What we find a lot of physicians doing is going over here to this insert free text and dictating that information in here, and that certainly is faster when doing it one time on any patient encounter. Where it becomes problematic is when the patient returns and that information is not there. It has to be put back in manually the same way every time, because information put in here, like if the patient was a type 2 diabetic, information put in here does not flow backward into the workflow. So let me go back and show you. First, it starts with the problem list, in which I put chronic problems in, such as these, or the example I gave was type 2 diabetes. In fact, let's make that a chronic visit, a chronic problem, type 2. And let's say it's controlled. Now here is a chronic problem that will feed into our past medical history. And now the Histories tab. You see you have problems, procedure, family, social. So if I wanted to add a procedure, let's say this patient had an appendectomy. And then if I want to, I can put in additional information, but I'll just say save. So there it is. But when I go over here to family history, social history, I don't get any information or any option to enter information in those tabs, because the workflow does not support adding new information in those tabs. Now, if I go over here and hit problems, you'll notice it's basically identical to my problem list, which is here. And if I say click on this Histories button, it actually takes me to the problem list page. I'll go to my home button, go back. If I click here on procedure or family and I click history, it actually takes me to a different page. And this is where I can add the family and social history and procedure history permanently in this detail focused window. So in the family, I'll click add and it gives me a grid. And you'll see it presents your mother, father, and your grandparents. You can hover over to discover. There's maternal, grandmother, grandfather. You notice that brother and sister are absent, but you can add them quite easily. And we can say father's history is negative if we want to, or we can say unknown. And you'll see two columns here. One column, if you click in that column with your left mouse button, it gives you a pertinent negative. Here I'm clearing it. If you do it in this column, the shaded column, it gives you a pertinent positive. It says double click for details. This way you can pull up a detail window and put more information in it. So if you're saying this patient was positive for a stroke but negative for cerebral hemorrhage, if that's what you want, you can do that. And notice here too, I'm using a neurologic history. I'm using a more precise history for this specialty, where down here I'm using general family history. What I could do is actually collapse that, or I could remove it all together and just use my general family history. So I could say this patient is positive for an MI, but negative for a stroke. And I can do that with other members of the family. The advantage of this method is that once it's entered, it will always flow into the history and physical and consult notes every time. Procedure history is the same thing. You can use common surgeries down here to add to your list. Social history gets quite interesting. When you hit the add button, you have a lot of options here. Pack years, alcohol use, substance use, and it gets even more detailed if you choose to do so, to get into that. Of course, once you're done, you say OK. You click here, takes you back to your histories page. I can refresh this window, and now my social history, family history, procedure history is all updated. And then when I go to create my note, you will see it pull in that additional information here. Like there's type 2 diabetes, there's our appendectomy, social history, family history. The one problem in our current system is that the Histories tab is typically used by all caregivers involved in the patient's ongoing care, including outpatient clinics, nurse practitioners, PAs, physicians, and specialists. But currently, since we've only been live with Cerner for for around 2 months or so, and we don't have an outpatient system using Cerner, many of these patients are coming to the hospital with fresh, clean slate charts, and this is all having to be recreated on the fly. For very, very busy high-volume services, such as the hospital service, in which the night service can get 20 to 30 or 35 patients admitted in a night, this becomes very tedious and difficult to do in that short of time frame. So you'll see a lot of physicians clicking on that insert free text. So while I'm not condemning that, I'm saying that if the time presents itself for you to use that Histories tab, or if you have some additional help that can put information in the Histories tab, that saves time down the road. Certainly, if we had a clinic system using this as well, that would be beneficial. But all of us helping out with this will speed that process up, and we'll see more and more information get fed into the system, so that we're actually validating the information more than entering it in fresh as we're doing now. So, hope that helps, and join me in the next video. Thanks.